Welcome back, y'all, and happy Thursday. Today, we're going to be breaking down the mint and the tight defenses. It's what's been giving Tennessee the most trouble, and really every other spread team been giving everyone trouble. And we're going to break down why it's giving people trouble, and we'll also talk about what Tennessee's been doing, because I feel like we're getting a lot better at finding ways to beat that defense, and we'll probably have everything completely figured out by next season. And we saw this defense versus UGA, versus Arkansas, Oklahoma, Alabama. Really, everyone ran a little bit of it, but we're going to be focusing in today's film session on UGA. So, as always, y'all, please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, y'all, the first thing that we're going to do is break down all the different terminologies that P and I use. We want to make sure that everyone is on the same page. And if you already know this information, it's perfectly fine. You can skip on past it. But if you don't know it, it would benefit you very greatly. If you're going to be watching this channel moving forward, to understand some of the things that P and I are going to be mentioning as we're breaking down film, because we are going to be going a lot deeper with things moving forward. So, number one, everything that's in gray, that's representing the offensive line. So the square with the C, that's the center. The circles with the G, those are the guards. The T's are the tackles, and the TE is the tight end. So in between those players, we have what's called a gap. So if you go up to the top, you're going to see that in between the guard and the center on both sides, that's the A gap. In between the guard and the tackle on both sides is the B gap. Outside of the tackles is the C, and outside of the tight end would be the D gap. Now let's come on down to the bottom and let's look at the defensive line techniques. All this means is where the players on the defensive line are lining up at. So again, we're going to start off with the center, which is the square with the C. The 0 means that the player is head up on the center. The 1s mean that the player is to the outside of the center, just slightly, okay, just shaded to the outside. Then as we look at the guards, head up on a guard is a 2 technique. To the inside of a guard, okay, just like an inside shade, is a 2I. The I just stands for inside. If you're shaded to the outside of the guards, then you are at a 3 technique. If we're looking at the tackles, head up is a 4 technique. Inside is a 4I technique. Slightly outside is the 5 technique. And then slightly outside of that is the 7. Head up on a tight end would be a 6. And then way wide outside is that wide 9 that I'm sure everybody has heard about. So I know that that's a whole lot of numbers and letters and things like that, but it's actually very, very simple. And as you guys, continue to hear this stuff, just for those of y'all that aren't used to this type of terminology, it's just going to start to become second nature, and you'll pick it up very quickly. All right, y'all, let's take a look at this mint defense, and we're going to talk about what each player is doing. So number one, we're looking at this defensive tackle or nose guard. He's lined up in a 0 technique, so that's head up on the center, and he's going to be responsible for one of those A gaps, but not both of those A gaps. So based off of the play that the defense is called and based off of the way that they play their scheme, he's either going to try to get in front of where the center is going, or he's going to try to get behind where the center is going, but he's going to be trying to maintain contact on him the whole time. So he's pretty much covering that center up so that the center can't do much of anything as far as getting up to the second level. So that's the first piece that makes this whole thing go. Next, we've got the defensive ends, who are going to be lined up in a 4I technique. That's a shade inside of the offensive tackles, and they're going to be responsible for maintaining those B gaps. So all three of these players that are down linemen really make this entire defense go, because if you look, I would say maybe especially at those 4Is, they're lined up right in between the guard and the tackle. So if you want to run, like, let's say, inside zone schemes don't work unless you get up to the second level, right? They don't work well. You either have to get a whole lot of push, or you got to be able to get up to the second level. So with how they're lined up, it's very difficult for the guard or the tackle to get up to the second level, just because if you do that, then it's a really tough block for either that guard or for the tackle. So they're lined up in a perfect spot that you don't necessarily have to be the most outstanding player. You have to be good, but you don't have to be, some first round draft pick to be disruptive within this system. Now, the thing about it is Georgia's got some dudes up front. They've got 3 guys that are 300 pounds plus, really fast, twitchy, strong, mean, all that type of stuff. So that just adds another layer to it whenever you're facing their defense. But that's how all that looks, just as far as, what's going on up front. Their main goal is just to keep the linebackers clean, to roam, and to, spill things to the outside. So they don't want for you to be able to run the football up the middle, pretty much anyway. They want you to try to bounce it to the outside and let those linebackers and safeties and everyone else make the tackle. So let's talk about what the linebackers are doing on the second level. So number 3 right here, looks like he might be lined up in a 2 or a 3 technique. Since he's playing at linebacker, that will be a 20 or a 30 technique. You just add a 0 to the end of it. So he's going to be looking at the A gap, and he's also looking to set the edge, to make sure that whatever spills to the outside, he's got to get there first. So that's his main jobs inside of this defense. And having the really good linebackers like Roquan Smith running this type of a defense, man, it is deadly. That's why I do not want Tyler Atkinson going to UGA. I would love for him to come to Tennessee, but I think anywhere except for UGA, because I think that would be a major problem, as much as I hate to say it. Now, the next linebacker, same thing. He looks like he might be lined up in maybe a 30 or 40 technique, but either way, right? He's more of an inside linebacker, so he's focusing more on the A gap. So it will probably be the opposite A gap of wherever that nose guard is going, right? And then he can also work to get to the outside some, but he has plenty of help out there, especially now that the safety's down inside the box. Usually you won't see the safety on the same side as the jack, but either way, I know that Georgia was very afraid of Tennessee's running game, so they tried some different looks. Either way, he's mostly an inside linebacker. And the last player that we'll talk about is going to be the jack. So this is what actually separates the mint defense from the tight defense. So the tight defense, this jack, he's not up at the line of scrimmage. He's kind of like outside of the box. He's not a true all-the-time box player. He's more of a overhanging player, right? So one of the bigger differences with the mint defense to the tight defense is the mint defense gives you a little bit more pass rush. It still isn't, great, but it gives you more pass rush than the tight defense does. The tight defense pretty much gives you no pass rush. So let's keep that in mind as we're going through this, but you can find some ways to manufacture pass rushes. First, let me explain to you what the jack is going to be doing. His job is mainly to set a very strong edge and to force the run plays back to the inside. And obviously all three of these linebackers will have to play some type of pass coverage. They can all be used as pass rushers. And again, within that, pass rush being better with the jack added inside of the box, you can bring the pass rushes, the blitzes and things from different spots because he can drop into coverage. So you can bring safety blitzes, corner blitzes. You can do a lot of different things, but he still is pretty much just like a undersized D end. Okay. So he's not going to be that great in pass coverage. So there's definitely some strengths and weaknesses. Listen, there's strengths and weaknesses to everything. This is chess, not checkers. So let's talk about what Tennessee's doing on offense, right? So we have Peyton Lewis lined up in the backfield, and he's going to be running an inside zone play. He's aiming at that A gap. Let's talk about what the offensive linemen are doing. So John Campbell, he's going to be one-on-one block with this defensive end. Right here we have Cooper Mays and then Spraggs. They're going to be double teaming the nose guard, and then Andre Carrick, man, he's got a single team on this defensive end, and he's going to get beat really quickly. He's actually the reason that this play gets stopped in the backfield. But we also have Lance Hurd, who's going to be one-on-one with the jack. And then something else that you can do to offset, not being able to run the football as easily on these types of mint fronts or these tight fronts is a tight end insert. So that's a big part of the reason that Coach Heupel went out and said, hey, look, we're going to run more 12 personnel. We need more tight ends, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, we're just in 11 personnel. There's only one tight end, but he's going to be used as an insert to help us block within this zone scheme. And I think he's trying to get up to that linebacker number 3, but he's going to get stuck at the line of scrimmage because this play gets blown up so quick. So boom, you can see, right? It's really tough. If you don't have real dudes playing at, I think, guard and center, I would say, especially if you don't have real dudes playing up there, it is really, really tough to, get these plays off. So number one, we're seeing that there is a wall set up at the line of scrimmage. This is what they want to do. They want to make you bounce to the outside. So you see all the help that they've already got to the outside, and that's not even showing everybody. But this play got blown up. So let's take a look at the next one. All right, y'all. So on this next play, we have another inside zone that's going to the A gap, and we're going to have another missed block. It's not going to be missed as bad as the previous one, but right here, John Campbell, who's blocking this jack, and we talked about it before. The jack's first job is to set a strong edge, which means he should be going to the outside of John Campbell, but he's going to come back to the inside. It throws John Campbell off. He's not quick enough to get there, and we don't have a guard to help him with that inside gap. So the play gets blown up again. And it looks really bad, right? He didn't get beat bad, but the overall result of this play looks bad. So we're looking at this, you see that wall being set up. You see how all the gaps, this feels like everything is clogged up. It's crazy how this works, but it does work. And actually, these are just a couple of the plays that Georgia had success with. They didn't have success on very many of them. So let's go on to the next one. All right, so on this one, what we're going to have is a run stunt. So this defensive end who starts off in that B gap is going to go to the A gap, and then this defensive tackle or this nose guard is going to go to the B gap. So they're switching gaps, and I think that this was on purpose. It might not have been. It might have just worked out for them. But either way, we're running the football right there at him. You see that there is a defensive tackle that's unblocked. That's a really bad look, but look at Dylan Sampson, though, y'all. This is why he's such a dog, because that's a 350-pounder, and he still falls forward. So while that play, I think that it probably should have been stopped in the backfield for, 2 or 3 yard loss. But man, D Sam just makes something out of nothing. I think he might have got 2 or 3 yards. And I think that we did get the first down on that play. So that's why it is important to have running backs that are dogs. All right, and on this one, we're going to see how the offense looks whenever things are going well, right? Like whenever things are blocked well, it's another inside zone going at the A-gap. Same thing that we've seen before, but the difference is we just pick up all these blocks and we get up to the second level. That's going to be one of the biggest things versus the mint or versus the tight defenses is being able to maintain the front three, but still being able to peel off and get to the second level. If you do that, you'll have a whole lot of success. Now, also that middle linebacker, number 11, he's going to bite over a little bit to the right. Okay, this is Dylan Sampson setting him up, but let's go ahead and let this thing roll. All right, so boom, D Sam kind of sets him up, cuts back, and it's blocked to perfection. That's beautiful. I love to see it. Again, man, Dylan Sampson is he's such a good player. I think that he should be a first rounder, in all honesty. You know what I'm saying? I know the running backs aren't supposed to go that high, but this is what can happen. It does not take a whole lot. If you just get it blocked right, you can run for days. All right, so on this play, what we're gonna see, I think this was supposed to be another inside zone, but Dylan Sampson bounces it to the outside, and this, I believe, is a read option. So on this play, because Nico can use his legs, I have no idea really why this happens. I'm not sure if 32 was following Nico or if he was following Miles Kitzelman, which wouldn't make any sense. It would make more sense that he would follow Nico, but that doesn't make any sense either. But this is what can happen whenever you have a quarterback that's mobile. People will overcompensate, and just the threat of a quarterback being mobile can open things up. So because number 32, that Jack, is going to go with Nico, he's going to leave a whole lot of space for my dog D Samp to run this football through. And this is why it's very important that Nico uses his legs. I think that this is why he uses his legs so much versus UGA, just to show him, hey, look, you gotta respect me on every single play. But yeah, I mean, that's another 10, 12 yard play by Dylan Sampson, just based off of one little small mistake. It doesn't take a lot. Just one thing is wrong, and this defense is way out of whack. So that's one of, I think, the weaknesses to it, and people don't talk about it as much. But let's go on to the next one. Something else that works very well versus these types of defenses is to spread them out and force them into a light box. So in this situation, Tennessee's going 3-by-1 with the tight end up on the line of scrimmage. We do a lot of wide receiver quick screens out of this. So they had to bring the Jack out of the box. They had to bring the linebacker out here to be that point man, and to try to slow down Tennessee from getting the tight end blocking some of these smaller, secondary players and things like that. It's a really bad matchup. But what they forgot, I guess, is that Tennessee can also run the ball. So very light box. Well, I'm not going to say it's a very light box because it's actually not. There's 5 inside of the box for Georgia, and there's also 5 blockers for Tennessee. But the thing about it is, with Nico's legs, this could turn into 6 blockers, right? We could use the running back as a lead blocker, and that's why it's so important versus these types of defenses to have players at quarterback that can run and throw. Because if Tennessee was to try to run, like this same play that's about to be run to the running back, if they run this with Nico, I'm going to tell you, I mean, this will be a 20 or 30 yards before he even gets touched. And we could probably kill him with that. We could run this over and over and over again until the safeties start to cheat down. And then Nico can fake like he's going to run on a sprint out and throw it over people's heads. So I'm just kind of throwing some things out there. That triple option could be deadly, but this is going to be dart. So doing a really good job of utilizing the 5 that we have, getting a +1 with that tackle, pulling around to the left side. So we'll see it again from this angle. And, y'all will be able to tell why this is such a very well designed play by Tennessee. So number 1, Lance Hurd does a really good job blocking this defensive end. And then we have Andre Carrick that does a really good job of getting up to the second level. If you can get to the second level versus the tight defense or versus the mint defense, it really doesn't matter. You're going to get at least 5 yards on every single play. I'm going to say like 95% of the time. So right here, like we talked about, we are running dart. The tackle is going to pull around as a lead blocker. We do a great job with the patience and everything. It just looks great, right? So here, we're running through tackles, falling forward, holding on to the football. These are the types of things that you absolutely have got to love about, how this offense can look. And, I think that we have really found a lot more success versus this defense here recently. So we're going to let this thing run through one more time, and then we are going to go on to the next play. But yeah, that's a thing of beauty. We're hitting safeties and everything. So let's go on to the next play. All right, y'all. Now let's talk about this mint defense versus the pass game. So what we're seeing right here from UGA is they're playing man-to-man covers. They've got one safety over the top. That's the one that's in yellow. but you don't see a whole lot of man out of this defense. It's just really hard to do just because it's so obvious whenever you are playing man based off of how you have to line up. So you can't really hide it too much. Typically what you're going to see is some sort of a, two high look. Georgia, they ran a lot of cover 2 man. So they would run man under 2 deep safeties. But on this play, they're actually running a true man-to-man coverage. And what's going to happen is we're going to get some pressure. Okay, we're going to look at the pressure on the next angle, but I think Nico does a great job of avoiding it. And actually, we had some people that might have come open if Nico had some more time, but I think that he did the right thing and just getting what he could on that play. All right, so now we're looking at this again from the end zone angle, and what we know is that the offense has a 6-man protection setup. So it's not the tight end, it's the 5 offensive linemen, and it's Dylan Sampson. Now, the way that we like to block things is try to go big on big, which means, hey, the big players block the big players, okay? So Dylan Sampson would get, like the linebackers or, like the secondary players. He should not have to block, tackles and ends and things like that. So that's all that means. But we also have a 6-man pressure coming from UGA. So you would think that this really should have gotten picked up, but I'm going to show you why it didn't. So on this play, Georgia's front 4 is slanting to our right, which means, of course, that our offensive linemen also have to slant to our right. And what they're going to do is bring an overloaded blitz with their linebackers to our weak side. And it's basically 2-on-1 at this point. Now, D-Sam can't pick up 2 people. He can only get the first one that shows. You want to try to get the one from the inside out. So the one that shows first or the one that shows to the inside, you want to pick them up first. And obviously, there was another offensive lineman that could have helped us out here, but we just didn't pass things off well. And that's how they can get pressure on you with defenses like this. They have to pretty much manufacture it. Georgia runs that blitz a lot, but man, look at Nico. Like, just look at how quickly he figures this out. Look at the way he keeps this play alive. He's calm, he's cool, he steps out of bounds. And I think that right there should have been 15. Okay, it looks like he kind of looks like he might have got hit right there. Yep, so that probably should have been some extra yardage. But either way, I think that Nico's going to be fine. I actually, y'all, just in watching this game several times, he absolutely balled out, and I'm super proud of him. I might do a whole nother breakdown, more in depth on how Nico played. But let's go on to the next play. All right, so this one is going to be the exact same blitz, the exact same look from our offense, right? And what we're going to do here differently, which isn't going to have too much bearing on this play, but I'm just kind of showing you how Tennessee's setting this up with the chess match and things like that. So Dylan Sampson is going to shoot out of the backfield, and this is another way to slow teams down from blitzing because he's now a pass catcher. Whenever you have pass catchers and a bunch of folks blitzing, that means that you're probably going to have some holes somewhere where you can throw the football, and holes are not a good thing for defenses. So this is something that I think we just wanted to kind of put on film, or like we wanted for Georgia to see this and worry about it moving forward. So we don't even throw the ball to that side. Again, it really doesn't have any bearing. We picked the blitzes up well, and we'll talk about this pass play here now that we're on this next angle. So what we're going to see here, is just understanding the different coverages that we're getting and knowing where the, soft spots are inside of the zone. So this play right here coming from Georgia is what we used to call fire 3 seam. And all this is it's cover 3 with the seams, and the seams are the players that are in blue and their area is in blue. And then you have the linebackers coming. That's the fire, that's the blitz. So within this defense, this right here is where one of the holes are. This is a very simple one because we've got a tight end that's lined up on the line of scrimmage. Okay, so he's an inline tight end. And we know that because his coverage is coming, no one's going to be able to guard him, right? Because the linebackers are gone, like everyone has to come. So he's wide open. Nico's very calm. He knew that it was there pre-snap. And, obviously Kit does a really good job of making a catch here and getting out of bounds. And would have been nice if he could have got that first down, but we know that he's Mr. Consistent. So very well done. Something else that Tennessee did a really good job with, and I think everyone should try to implement into their offense if they want to find success versus a mint defense, is find ways to put the jack in a conflict, right? He's one of the players that kind of makes this whole thing go. So use that against them, right? So what Tennessee does here is we have Dylan Sampson that starts off lined up on Nico's left side. Nico moves him over to his right side. Whenever he does that, it means that the jack now has to pick him up if he comes out of the backfield. And guess what Dylan Sampson is going to do on this play? He's going to come out of the backfield, and the jack has to pick him up. So that's another way to, slow down the pass rush, but also it's a great way to get exactly what you want as far as the passing lanes and things like that. So the first thing that I want to point out is that Georgia was terrified of Tennessee's 2x2 for whatever reason. And the 2x2 just means that there were two pass catching threats on both sides of the field. But every time that we got into this formation, they played a really, really deep coverage. Like right here, they're actually playing another cover 3 seam without that same blitz. But the difference here is that they've got a linebacker that's playing like 10 yards off of the slot, and he's sitting on the dig. That's just, you don't see that too often. So they've got a lot of people playing deep. But again, we're talking about the conflict that we're going to put on this jack right here. So that's the zone that he's going to have to drop to. It's curl to flat now that Dylan Sampson has come to his side, and he is another potential pass catcher. So he obviously is probably going to, want to flow out with these set because that's really all that he can see at this point. So Dylan Sampson is going to run this wheel and widen out that jack, and that's going to leave this spot wide open on a quick little hitch. And everyone knows what's coming. Like everyone on our football team, right? Everyone on Tennessee's team, we know where this ball is going. You see all the misdirection, you see all the crossing patterns and things like that. I'm just trying to tell y'all, man, if Tennessee drew plays up how we did versus UGA, we would be unstoppable. So hopefully we'll see a lot more of this moving forward, but very, very well designed and executed play. All right, y'all, next play, we have a Tampa 2 from UGA. They're actually showing a 3-high look, but they will move it down to a Tampa 2, and y'all can see what the Tampa 2 looks like. But on this play, there's another player that we have got to put in conflict whenever we're playing up against these mint defenses, and it's going to be whoever the overhanging player is. On this one, it's a linebacker, right? So the linebacker we just saw is supposed to be playing inside of a hook zone, but on this play, he's going to be run first. He's going to bite on the fake, which is incorrect. And what that's going to do is it's going to, again, give us a wide open spot to throw another hit. So this is where this defense can be a little bit of a problem because, yeah, linebackers are good players, but they're not secondary players. So you're putting them out in space. You're asking them to do way too much. It's a lot easier than I feel like people realize to put them in conflict. But this is the conflict that we're choosing to put this linebacker in. Hey, here, we're gonna run it here, and then we throw it as soon as he bites on the run because he's used to being run first anyway. So it's just like little mind games, it's like little chess matchups all the time. And this is a really tough catch right here by Squirrel White, who had several tough catches, and I'm definitely going to miss him. But yeah, I mean, it's as simple as that, y'all. Let's go on to the next play. It's not just about the short underneath stuff. You can also find ways to throw the football down the field. So right here we have quarters coverage, and it's very obvious and easy to tell whatever coverage they're in with this sort of a defense just because they can't mask and hide things nearly as well as you can with some of the other more traditional defenses. So Tennessee is going to go to a 3-by-1 look, and what that's going to do is create the one-on-one matchup up at the top with a cornerback that's not that great versus a 6'5", 4.40, 4.340 Chris Brazzell, who can also jump out of the gym. So this is a 3-step drop on a fade. All Nico has to do is just keep this ball somewhere in play, and this is either going to be pass interference or someone's going to get mossed. So this is the type of stuff that I feel like Tennessee should try to do 4 or 5 times every single game. Look, just create the one-on-one matchup and throw it down the field. It pretty much works versus every single defense, but I feel like especially versus this one, just because you can identify when you have those one-on-one matchups a lot easier. We also can get to the intermediate routes versus this same sort of defensive look. So right here, what we have is quarters coverage, the same coverage that we saw in the previous play. And this area that we've talked about a million times is always wide open on this dig, as long as we can give Nico the time, and we do a really good job of just picking this stuff up. So they have a middle linebacker that comes in late, but Nico does a good job of being on time with his throw. And he throws it a little bit behind Squirrel on this. Actually, we're gonna watch it again. I think they called this incomplete, but look at that laser, dude. That is a laser. It's rare to see any quarterbacks have this type of spin on that on the football that they throw. The only other person I could think of, or one of the only ones, is Aaron Rodgers. His football looks a lot like Aaron Rodgers when he throws it. But that is a catch. And this bozo comes in here. I think that's Kirby Smart's cousin. He comes in here and calls that an incomplete pass. But anyway, let's go on to the next play. And this is something else, y'all. I feel like we're going to see a lot more versus these mint defenses versus the tight defenses, and that's going empty. And so right now we're starting off with the 5-man box. And what Tennessee's going to do is we're going to motion Peyton Lewis out to the flat area, and we're going to notice that the linebackers are backing off. So everything is kind of switched up now. Now what we're looking at is a 4-man box and only a 3-man pressure. But Tennessee still has 5 offensive linemen, and they still got Nico who can run. So if he runs any sort of a quarterback draw and get those linebackers just to drop back a couple of yards, he can run for 10 to 15 yards without even getting touched. So this is something that Notre Dame did with a lot of success versus UGA, and I would expect for Tennessee to try the same thing. But on this one, we're just going to throw the ball out to the flats on sort of a screen right there to Peyton Lewis, and there were some other people that probably would have been open down the field. But there's just a lot of things that you can do whenever you go empty versus these types of defenses, because you've got these linebackers really playing out in space, and there's not too many linebackers on the face of the planet that are that good in pass coverage. But you can also make, I wouldn't say necessarily an empty set, but almost a very similar thing, right? Just because an empty set means that you're going 5 wide. And on this one, what we're going to do is we're going to send out 5 wide receivers or 5 wide receiver types on routes. Now, what this can do to a defense like this is it's going to put them in conflict. That's number one, right? So we talked about the two players that we want to try to keep in conflict within this defense. Talking about that jack and also the overhanging player that could be a linebacker or a secondary player. But either way, you're going to put them in a conflict because they're going to say, okay, can I blitz or should I blitz or do I have to stay into pass coverage? If you send out 5 people on routes and if anybody blitzes, anything more than like 4, someone's going to be wide open. So what Georgia does on this, instead of only bringing 3, they're going to end up bringing 4 because that jack has got to come out on his route that this tight end is going to run. So I think that this was just like an automatic from Georgia's defense. I don't think that this was pre-called or anything like that. So what we're talking about now is a 4-man rush versus a 5-man protection, and those numbers definitely favor Tennessee. This is probably another place that Nico could have ran the football at, but right here, okay, the same spot's going to be wide open, and this isn't quarters coverage. This is going to be back at the cover 3 seam, which Georgia ran a ton of, but this dig is still open. So it just kind of feels like the middle of the field, especially on these digs, is constantly open with the way that Georgia likes to run their routes. And this one was a little bit behind Squirrel White, but it's a very, very good catch. And we'll watch it again from this angle, just because I know sometimes you want to see it from different angles and see if you can find out anything new. But I think that we did a really good job of picking up that blitz that kind of comes late. Georgia loves to bring those A-gap blitz. They want to try to impact, the center. So that's one of their big things. But really good catch. The ball was thrown on time. I think that Nico had to throw it in this window just to make sure that it was caught. But either way, I'm very much looking forward to what Tennessee is going to do next season. All right, y'all, that's going to do it for the film session. But just to touch on some of the key points from today, number one, the guards and the centers are going to be critical because at some point they will get matched up with the one-on-one block versus some very big, strong, fast, physical dudes. And I think that Tennessee's got a lot of good guards and tackles on our roster right now. So it does explain why Coach Heupel went out and got those 2 guards, Wendell Moore and also Sam Pendleton, and added them to what we already have. So we're in a really good spot right there. Number 2, the tight end inserts work. That's why obviously Coach Heupel has 5 or 6 really good scholarship tight ends at this point. And, we saw how well they work within that 12 personnel last season. But we can also just run those single tight end sets and find a lot of success within our, zone blocking schemes and things like that. Number 3, physical running backs are definitely needed inside of this system because, like we said, sometimes the guards, the centers, the tight ends, anybody, someone's going to end up getting beat, and those running backs are going to be one-on-one inside of the line on a 3rd and gotta have it with a big old defensive tackle. Can you make him miss or can you go straight through him? Whatever it takes, will you do it? And I was kind of favoring those bigger running backs, which I still like them. But D-Sam really showed me that it don't matter how big you are. If you're a dog, you're just a dog. And I think that we've got a lot of dogs inside of our running back room this year. And then number 4 is going to be to create the conflict with the option plays. So we talked a lot about the players that you want to target within those conflicts. But I think that the easiest way to do that is with read options, with RPOs, with some triple options. I think that Nico needs to have the opportunity to be able to, run the football, hand the football off, or throw it. And sometimes act like you're going to run it and then throw it. Once we get to that point within this offense, I promise y'all, there is nobody that can stop it. Last thing is that the empty sets do work, and you wouldn't think that that should be possible because this defense is supposed to be the best versus the spreads. But I think that people were saying that before quarterback started to run. And if you have a very mobile quarterback, yeah, that defense is going to get sliced up real quick. And we saw Notre Dame do that to UGA. So I'm excited about all those things. And the last thing that I will touch on that we don't have up here on the screen is that I do feel like the stretch plays would be very, very deadly versus this defense. I just don't think that Tennessee has the personnel right now to run that. But I did see that Wendell Moore and Sam Pendleton was clocked at about 19 miles per hour. So maybe we can do it. You just need to have those smaller, quicker guards, especially to be able to run stretch plays the way that I feel like Tennessee would need to. But hey, maybe it's something that we can work on. So I think that there's a lot to look forward to. I do feel like Coach Heupel is really starting to figure this thing out. And I think that he will be the first one that actually kills this entire defense, or at least puts it on the shelf for probably like the next 10 to 15 years. And I do believe that that's going to start next season. But those are my thoughts. Please share yours with me down in the comment section. And as always, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. We'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.